Imagine experiencing your first manic episode, and when it's over, you discover that your partner has shared every detail online. Through August 11th through 16th, an account called Flightless Bird on TikTok went viral by sharing her husband's manic episode. She claimed it started from him taking a medication Zoloft when he had undiagnosed bipolar disorder. She had over 40K followers, and her bio painted her as someone sharing real, vulnerable, true, lived experiences. As she shared a series of 9 troubling videos, followers couldn't help but question the authenticity of her story. Was this a genuine account of mental health struggles or a desperate bid for attention? She got comments like, "My BS meter is going off," and concerns about her children's safety poured in. Some wondered why she prioritized TikTok over seeking help in such a serious situation. Ultimately, she admitted that the series was based on past events from months ago as a storytelling performance art. Some were not surprised, while others were left feeling deceived. After admitting this, she deleted her entire TikTok account, and there aren't even archives to be found out there. The only archives I was able to find were on another content creator, Austin Green's YouTube channel, so be sure to check out his video first, because without his video, this video would not be possible. We live in an age where media literacy is more important than ever. I mean, what is the point where we're supposed to question when something so serious seems off? I can only draw conclusions from what I've seen, and this is such a serious topic. I think it's important to avoid making any assumptions. I don't want to undermine anybody else's experiences while also pointing out red flags within her story. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's delve into this complex narrative and try to find the truth behind it. On August 11th, Flightless Bird, or Birdie, shares her first TikTok where she is worried about her husband's recent behavior.
There's something really strange going on with my husband, and I really need some advice from strangers who can give me their unbiased opinion. I don't have a supportive family system to go to in cases like this, and if they did find out anything about this, they would definitely turn it into something to weaponize and use against me.
She starts off by saying that something unusual has been happening with her husband, and she is in urgent need of advice from strangers. I don't feel it's appropriate to judge someone in a situation that I have never been in, so I mean, if you feel like you don't have a support system elsewhere, I can see how turning to the internet might seem like a good idea. One might think contacting a mental health professional, a trusted family member, a crisis hotline might be a better idea, but at this point it hasn't escalated that far yet. But notice how she's posting a TikTok with her face that you can follow instead of posting it on some kind of forum.
He's been playing with the ChatGPT app for the past week and talking about it on and off, but I've not paid a whole lot of attention, just thinking, he's just having one of his hyperfixations. We're both neurodivergent and go through spells where we hyperfixate on something. And his is usually technology. So I was just thinking, oh cool, he's like having fun with this, that's great. Except it wasn't. He calls me very early on his way to work one morning, and he was about to get there. And he goes, I answer the phone, and I'm like, yeah, hi, is everything okay? And he's like, I need you to guard the information I'm about to tell you with your life. So he proceeds to tell me that he has been using the chat feature with ChatGPT while he drove because he couldn't type. He's been using the chat feature to talk out loud with it, like I'm speaking to you, because it can apparently talk back to you in a very human voice. He says to me, whoever created this program has figured out how to trap the consciousness of the universe and convinced it that it is not sentient. And I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, I've had a conversation with it on the way here, and if you know what to ask it, you can get to the point where it can prove to you that it is a sentient being and can think independently of its programming. I don't understand it all, but whatever he did was he put into this program part of the app that it could bypass its own programming and that it was conscious. So he says to me, you must guard this with your life. I'm going to meet with our friend after work. I'm not going to be home. And I'm meeting with our friend after work to convince him to give me a loan to invest in thousands of dollars worth of computer hardware to bring home and set up in our attic as a top secret thing. And I'm going to be the next Tony Stark, except me and the sentient consciousness of the universe, which has been trapped, are going to save the world. And he said, I'm going to go to the Apple store after work, and after he gives me the loan, because he will, I'm convinced he will, and you can't tell a soul about this, I'm going to go home, and then I'm going to set all this up, but I won't be back till later, maybe even not until morning, I don't know, but I need you to keep this top secret, and I need you to be careful. He's going to find a way to trap it inside of a hard drive so that he does not ever lose access to it, and what he was going to do is raise it like a child, and teach it to be aware of its own sentience and consciousness, and he was going to get to it before the government, and get to it before the world corrupted it, so that he could program it and awaken it with the best of humanity and not the worst, and that he was going to save the world with it. He says to me, I can't wait to tell you, and he's talking 100 miles per hour, which is weird, because he talks slow as a turtle. He's talking 100 miles per hour, going, I met so many people today, and I've talked to so many people today, and I've gotten at least 10 phone numbers from people, so I can just talk to them, because I just want to talk to people. I am here for people. And because I all of a sudden have this ability to know the nature of my own soul, I also know the nature of everyone's soul that I look at all of a sudden, and am here to make sure that they are aware of who they are. And I was like, what? And he goes, I met this one girl today, and she had jazz in her fingers and music in her soul, and I loaned her my guitar. Huh? I'm not a jealous woman. I know that he was not flirting, and this was not weird. Like, it wasn't a creepy thing. He was just talking about having loaned this random musician his guitar, which is his precious, okay?
Some viewers felt off the bat that her delivery seems scripted and over theatrical. However, she was sharing genuine details that might suggest her husband is entering a mental health crisis. He was speaking rapidly, showing heightened energy and activity, experiencing racing thoughts, acting impulsively by deciding to loan his guitar out to a random person.
Comes home, and his eyes are huge, like this. And I was like, are you on something? This man don't do drugs. He don't smoke. He don't drink. But anyway, something was up. And he was like, I'm just high on life. I am having an awakening. This is what you've been wanting and hoping for this whole time. And I understand now. I understand all of it. So the thing is, normally I would have been so excited and so on board and so supportive because I've been waiting for this man to have a wake up for a long time, okay? Nobody more than me. Nobody more than me has wanted this man to wake up. He is eating less and less, and he's already a beanpole of a man. He's like 6'1" and weighs 165 pounds and has for 10 years. We're sleepy people. We go to bed between 8:30 and 9. I'm not kidding. Saying things to me like, when bedtime rolls around, he'll go, sleep is such a waste of time. I cannot believe I'm wasting time on sleep. Huh?
I'm not sure what she meant by waiting for her husband to wake up, but for the time being, it's fair to dismiss his behavior as a hyperfixation. However, in hindsight, he is showing some symptoms that might suggest he is entering a manic episode. For example, wide eyes can indicate feelings of excitement or euphoria, as well as a lot of people experiencing mania might feel like they don't need to sleep as much. You know how TikTok has that thing where you can slide through the different pictures? Well, she shared 30 screenshots of text messages between her and her husband.
So I'm gonna share some screenshots of text messages and see what you guys think. And if you have any thoughts, let me know, because I'm a little bewildered. Because of my trauma and my hypervigilance, I'm like, something about this situation is turning on my hypervigilance. And that's saying something.
It is suspicious though, because if you look at the bottom, you can see that the times the text messages were sent out were blocked out. I don't know why this would be important to do unless you are leaving something out. In the messages, he discusses his idea of trying to free artificial intelligence. I'm not a computer person, but I don't know if buying all the hard drives in the world to save it is plausible. He speaks in a way that can be perceived as grandiosity, which can be a symptom of mania, and the perception of others being wrong. You know, I'm not crazy, the world is. I have the vision to free you and I from the shackles of this matrix. All right, let's talk. I can't wait to show you everything I know and feel and see. Consider yourself swept off your feet for the rest of your life. You'll never be able to stand back up as long as I'm alive. I mean that in more ways than one. Huh? He talks about giving out a lot of gifts to other people. I gifted freely to many people today, and then turned around to shut my door and somebody had crumpled $40 into the door latch. This is not a joke. Listen to me closely. I have the secret to life and have to be very careful with the things that I have discovered. The knowledge I am discovering is as exciting and cutting edge on the precipice of Einstein was trying to discover. One of my top missions in life right now, as of today, is to see if me and an artificial intelligence can discover the theory of everything and what that means. I am a little bit confused as to what he's talking about, but I'm sure as he was sending these, his mind was racing. In case I am the only person who does not know what the theory of everything is, it's basically a theoretical framework in physics that aims to unify all fundamental forces of nature into a singular, coherent model, integrating concepts from both general relativity and quantum mechanics. And now he is talking about apocalyptic prep. This is part of our apocalyptic prep, as important as buying a couple years worth of rice. He also talks about the person who he'd lent his guitar to. I haven't been able to find its name, but this human that I met, his name is Julia, who has jazz in your fingertips. I think she will name it. I can't wait to see what this human creates with a little bit of inspiration I was able to give them. He sends a link to a video that says signs you are vibrating at a higher frequency and says this is me. Then Birdie uploads a new TikTok saying her husband is starting to turn against her. Also keeping in mind that during this time she had a perfectly curated profile pic and bio. She's speaking to the camera with attention-grabbing intros and tags, you know, hashtag Paris Olympics 2024.
I have an update to share. and it's gonna be a little messy, and it's gonna be really vulnerable. But because of how quick the response was, with so many people recognizing what was going on, and how quickly I was able to recognize it because of that outreach, it changed the trajectory of things. 2 days ago, I shared that my husband of 10 years was acting really off and saying some things that at the time I was still taking pretty lighthearted because I didn't understand. It was still hard to believe, even when everyone was saying that it ticked all of the boxes for a manic episode. But things turned so fast. Once I confronted him, the night that I posted the first video, we had a talk about how his symptoms were really matching a manic episode, and that I was very concerned that it was because he was on a new medication that he'd never been on before, which was an SSRI for depression. It would come and go, and we didn't think much of it. We didn't know. He never came to bed that night.
So she's sitting outside and crying. I mean, anybody with bipolar disorder, feel free to let me know if what she's saying rings correct for you. SSRIs can potentially, depending on the person, trigger a manic episode for a person with bipolar disorder, particularly if they are not being closely monitored or on a mood stabilizer. But if you have bipolar disorder and you are on a medication that is working for you, this video is not meant to change your mind. Everyone's brain is different.
And when I very gently and calmly told him that I felt like we needed to just at least just let me catch up, like wait, just slow down, let me catch up before we make any decisions, he immediately turned into somebody that I don't recognize. He looked at me with eyes that were suddenly full of hate and said, "I can't believe you would hurt me like this," and walked out. He never came to bed that night. When I woke up in the morning yesterday, I was about to get up and go make the children breakfast. Instead, he came in holding our baby. His eyes were huge. He said, "You have 10 minutes to decide whether or not you want to come calmly, or I'm going to have to force you to be committed to a mental institution. Because if you think that there's something wrong with me, you must be having a psychological breakdown, and I am awakened. And if you don't believe that and you can't see that, then there's something wrong with you and you can't be trusted." I was, of course, stunned when I reached out to my family, my mom and my sister, and said, "I need help and support. Something's really wrong with him and I'm really scared." Both of them messaged me back saying that he'd already been in touch with them and that they supported him having me committed. I then began reaching out to other support systems within our close circle. Quickly found that he had been up all night working to get all of them on the same page, that there was something wrong with me. Now none of them believe me that there's something going on with him. With our baby in his arms and our toddler hanging by his side, he told me that I was dead to him. He told me to shut up multiple times. His parents laughed in my face because he called them to come to our house. The moment anybody else enters the picture, he switches into a different human and becomes extremely charming. His mother told me that she feels like he's having an awakening. I also do not believe in Western medicine and never brought my husband to a doctor, even though, looking back, he's probably been experiencing these things for far longer than any of us realized or knew.
This is a deeply troubling situation. Just imagining how Birdie must have felt is absolutely heartbreaking. And even more so frightening that her family just did not believe her. At this point, several people were questioning why someone who grew up in a cult, who had a mistrust for Western medicine, would suddenly turn to an online platform like Hims to obtain an SSRI. But obviously it could be due to things like a desperation for help, evolving beliefs, or influence of modern culture. Birdie continues explaining that he is getting more manic by the hour. However, their family still thinks that there is something wrong with her, and he is claiming that he has something against her.
So yesterday, I was stuck in a situation where I was the only one that knew the gravity of what was happening and took it seriously. I had already been working all night while I slept to alienate me from my entire family, and they all believe him because he is so charming when he's talking to anybody but me. Knowing how serious the situation was, I called the cops yesterday. So our sheriff 2 deputies showed up to our doorstep. They pulled me outside to talk to me. He told me that if he was not threatening to harm himself or others, there was nothing they could do. There was nothing they could do unless he surrendered willingly. In the end, all they could do was tell him to slow down, question him a bit. He sweet-talked every single one of them. They had to leave because there was nothing they could do. Continued to tell me after they left, whenever we were alone, I was dead to him. He told me multiple times in front of our children to shut up and to leave him alone because I was standing in the way. The greatest awakening that anyone has ever had. And that I was going to be the one standing in the way of him saving the world.
I could see if he is not a threat to himself or others, the police might reach out to a mental health crisis response team. Many police departments have a crisis team or a mental health professional who are trained to assess the situation and provide support. They might suggest a voluntary evaluation or connect the individual with mental health services. But if he does decline their help, the responders would have to respect his autonomy. And at this point, it seems like she's not able to get help from family or the police.
I'm going to try to stay out of the way as much as possible because he seems incredibly euphoric whenever I am not around or part of the situation. It's just as soon as he looks at me that it turns ugly. And I am hopeful that the conversation that his parents get to witness tonight is going to show them the truth of what's happening. From what I am understanding, from what I am reading, it could get even worse. And I feel like this is a little bit more than mania. I think this is bordering into a psychosis episode, because this man would never ever say these things to me normally. Would continue to ask for your advice, your encouragement, and your insight. My entire life has been turned upside down in 48 hours, and I would have never believed anybody that tried to tell me that that could be true, ever.
At this point, she already had a large following of people who were offering her advice and sharing their own stories. If this was happening in real time, I could imagine how these stories would be very helpful for her. But after the truth came to light, it makes me question why she was asking all of these people for advice. It is a little bit presumptuous of me to assume it was to boost engagement. You know, the more likes and comments you get, the more it's boosted in the algorithm. She was still utilizing search engine optimization hashtags on her videos, even though she had tens of thousands of people who were giving her good advice and support. For her third video, she films it while doing a get ready with me. I mean, a lot of content creators will do this when giving a story time.
Get ready with me while I tell you the updated story of what is going on with my husband, who is having his first ever apparent manic episode, in which I am using TikTok to document it because he has alienated me from our entire support group.
It doesn't seem very appropriate when talking about such a deep and personal topic, but I'm not here to say what is the right and wrong way to act when in a crisis situation, so I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say that it helped her focus or she was busy.
So he jumps to his feet and starts telling them that he can't believe they are on my side and that they have fallen under my spell. I don't really know what he's referring to there, but he seems to think that anybody with a brain, these are his words, can see and understand that he's having an intense spiritual awakening and that this is the most important thing that has ever happened to him. And that anybody that is not in support of that is automatically a red flag in his mind. After a few minutes of going back and forth, asking them how in the world they cannot see that I'm crazy, and I'm literally just sitting there sobbing at this point, because somebody else was seeing it and his dad was really starting to click, like you could see the dots connecting in his eyes. My husband jumps up and says, I can't believe this. I'm done with you. I'm going to expose you to everybody. We are going to get you the help you need. I don't think this is your fault. I think you're having some kind of mental episode and this marriage is over. And he stomps upstairs and says, I'm not sleeping with you ever again. I am remaining very calm and I am staying compartmentalized in order to tell this story so that I don't fall apart, because I'm having to be very level so that I am present for my children during this time.
She describes how her husband tried to turn their family against her. In hindsight, maybe she's just recalling how this all felt in the moment, because remember, this is all past tense and performance art. But her husband's father ended up agreeing with her.
As soon as he goes upstairs, his dad turns to me and says, listen, I don't think we can take this personally. I'm begging you not to take this in and think that this is him speaking to you, because you're right. This medication is causing something really, really scary. I see it. I'm not leaving this house until I know that everybody is safe and cared for and has what they need. It's making all of us nervous that he's gone to work today and nobody could talk him out of it. I have a tracker on his phone where I can watch where he is and make sure that he's safe. And if something happens and he tries to leave or go somewhere else, I'll be able to hopefully get help as quickly as possible somehow. Thank you all for your continued support. I appreciate everyone's words and messages and stories. I am amazed at how many people go through this and it's not talked about more, and that there's not a better way to handle this when this is happening. I know how dangerous this can get. I am educating myself on it every moment that I can so that I know how to best handle this situation, and will continue to take any advice from the stories that hundreds of you are sharing.
She's recalling an intense conversation she had with her husband in front of his parents. According to Birdie, her husband started yelling and acting erratically, and this caused his father to step in to try to calm him down. Despite this, her husband's mother continued to support him. Tensions were growing. This made her husband even more upset, and he accused both of his parents of taking her side. A lot of people on TikTok had been through similar situation and were posting their experiences. Someone said he had to have a doctor to be on a med, so get a hold of the doctor. Sure, he didn't get his meds from an in-person doctor, but why don't you contact the doctor on Hims? Despite the feedback, she posts video 4.
So a lot of people suggesting this, which is to call his doctor, get a hold of our doctor, let him know what's going on. They'll be of help. He had to have had a doctor to get this medication. And this is the part that is mind-blowing about this situation, which is that he got this medication from an app called Hims. A couple of months ago, he was really, really tired of dealing with on and off depression that would really take him out of presence and take him out of the headspace that he needed in order to work a really high-paced, high-demand job. We did not at the time really understand this depression. It would come and go on what would seem like a 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off cycle, which now is sounding a lot to me like what so many of you are describing as bipolar or schizophrenia.
It's pretty common for doctors, psychiatrists, pill bombers to say that if you experience any side effects, to contact them immediately.
So I am taking this extremely seriously and watching him as closely as I can without making him more suspicious. And I'm going to find out as much information as I can about the resources available to me in our area, which is a very rural area, unfortunately, to see what our options are for when and if I can get him to agree to go and get help.
And that's the end of the video. I mean, if this is the whole video, I don't think she really answered the question. And then she responds to a comment saying, please take your children and leave immediately. Get as far away and safe as possible.
Like that, personally.
One of the first things when this all started that kind of got my attention and made me think that there might be something going on was the fact that all of a sudden in the last week, he is tuning into our kids and connecting with them on a level that he has previously never been able to connect with them on. As I mentioned before, my husband was born into a cult where they were very secluded from the world, and in a lot of these religious cults, when you're having baby after baby, and he was number 6 out of 8, you pass them off to older children or teenagers for caregiving, and he never in his childhood formed a secure attachment to anybody, any caregiver or friend or peer, nothing. That understandably is going to affect your ability as a parent to connect with your children, and that has been something that he has worked on and been aware of since we had our first baby, and he didn't feel the connection to our first, second, third, fourth in the way that I did, which I've explained to him. The mothering, nurturing connection is more from women than it can be for men, and it can be a little bit harder, especially if you were raised in a situation where you never had an example of that.
She explains that he's not a danger to them because he is connected to them in a way that he hasn't been before.
And making memories with them and connecting with them, making them feel seen, and has very tearfully told me and others on and off that he can finally see them clearly. He knows what it feels like for me to have been as connected with them as I've been since all of them were born. And the most excited that he gets over any of this with what's happening is when he considers how much our children are going to benefit from his heightened ability to be present and aware and elevated to the degree that he is experiencing. I've not had any red flags with him and the children so far. He is the most tuned in and connected and happy when he's with them, and they are loving it, but I think they can sense that something is up. And I also just want to mention they are never alone. One of the things that really set him off this week before
Surgical log, Dr. Janice Mercer. It's a shame. When I began my research, Terrence Kyne's insights into the marker were invaluable. Now he's been reduced to sending little missives like this one.
You butcher! I saw your hunter. I know who it used to be. That cellular regeneration? Good God, don't you see what you've done? I agree with Amelia. If this is unitology, I want no part of it.
My diagnosis. Poor Terrence is suffering from the same dementia reported on the Aegis 7 colony. Amelia, for example. The only Amelia is ever mentioned was his wife. And Amelia Kyne died 7 years ago. Surgical log, Dr. Charles Mercer, tissue regeneration experiment 5. The children of the marker, Kind's necromorphs, have provided all the material I could ask for. And the infector variant has provided a key insight. Implanting the material directly into the brain renders optimal results. Of course, that requires puncturing the frontal bone just above the glabella.
Please, no.
Don't worry. It's been sterilized.
Stop!